It began in the hills of southern Brazil, not with machines, but with people who believed movement could shape the future. In a modest workshop in Caxias do Sul, that belief gave rise to Marcopolo, a name that would one day travel across more than 120 countries on 5 continents. From local craftsmanship to global innovation, this is the story of how determination turned a small factory into one of Brazil's greatest industrial journeys. To understand this story, we need to return to its roots in Italy. In 1895, a young couple left the town of San Benedetto Po in Lombardy and settled in Caxias do Sul in southern Brazil. There, they built a new life, one defined by hard work and a spirit of innovation. Their son carried that drive forward, becoming one of the region's first wheat farmers. 3 generations later, their grandson, Paulo Bellini, would channel that same pioneering spirit, not in farming but in mobility. At the start of the 20th century, Brazil's public passenger transport system was still in its beginning, having begun in Rio de Janeiro in 1908. Before that, people relied mainly on walking, riding animals, and later on steam trains, animal-drawn trams, and eventually electric trams. With the urban expansion of the 1920s and 1930s, buses began to appear, offering a faster, simpler, and more affordable way to move around cities. Brazil's urban population jumped from 36% in 1950 to 88% today. Demand for buses exploded. In Caxias do Sul, another Italian descendant family, the Nicola brothers, had established a workshop focused on repairing and painting truck cabins. Dorothy, Dorval, Joe, and Nelson Nicola quickly gained a reputation for the quality of their work, especially for transforming old trucks into buses with their refined bodywork skills. At the time, Brazil lacked a company dedicated to manufacturing buses, so most vehicles were either imported or assembled locally, driven by creativity and improvisation. This creative approach made Nicola brothers stand out among the few others. In 1949, the Nicola brothers founded Nicola and CIA in a modest, dirt-floor warehouse. About 17 employees hand-built wood-framed bus bodies, each taking months. Even though the company's early years were marked by challenges, such as axle misalignments and sealing flaws that allowed rainwater to seep into the vehicles, it was gradually making a name for itself in the market. In 1951, after some of the Nicola brothers' partners left the business, they met the 22-year-old Paulo Bellini, who had just earned his degree in business administration. With financial support from his father, Paulo acquired the available shares and became a partner in the company. At that moment, he seized the opportunity to position himself within the fast-growing transport sector, taking charge of management across commercial operations, purchasing, finance, and public relations. At the time, wooden bus structures were already outdated, and the company faced a big challenge of advancing toward bodies made of steel. To adapt, it began creating specialized techniques and production methods tailored to buses, essentially building a new segment of the automotive industry from the ground up, since available chassis were originally designed for trucks. In 1952, the company delivered its first bus with a fully metal structure. By 1961, the company had already expanded beyond Brazil's borders, completing its first bus export to Uruguay, the first of its kind in the country. Toward the end of the decade, it launched a new model called Marcopolo, inspired by the famous Venetian explorer. The model's success was so remarkable that in 1971, the company, previously known as Carrozzerias Nicola, officially adopted the name Marcopolo. The timing was ideal, as the partnership with the Nicola brothers had come to an end in the late 1960s. After the departure of the original partners, Paulo Bellini invited Walter Gomes Pinto and José Fernandez Martins to join him in managing the company. Both proved to be valuable collaborators and eventually became key directors at Marcopolo. During the 1970s, production techniques continued to evolve, bolstered by the arrival of new Italian immigrants who brought specialized skills in metalworking that further strengthened the team. In the 1980s, Bellini and industrial director Claudio Gomes traveled to Japan to study innovative manufacturing systems such as just-in-time and Kanban. These methods inspired higher levels of motivation and efficiency among employees. As a result, Bellini implemented the Marcopolo production system, centered on valuing and developing workers while enabling large-scale production of what he called customized buses. He often compared the factory to a tailor's workshop, where the chassis served as the pants and the body as the jacket. With the market expanding rapidly, imports continued to rise until, in 1990, Marcopolo began its internationalization process, transforming itself into a true Brazilian multinational. The company not only expanded its sales to more than 100 countries, but also established factories abroad, first in Portugal, followed by Argentina, Mexico, Colombia, South Africa, Russia, and India. In the 2000s, Marcopolo gained prominence for developing the first bus with a removable roof, designed for a client in the Middle East and used during pilgrimages to the holy cities of Mecca and Medina. Innovations of this scale attracted major new clients, including large orders for Chile's Transantiago project. The company's ability to deliver customized, high-volume buses on extremely short deadlines solidified its reputation as a global leader in efficient, large-scale production. In 2001, Marcopolo surpassed the milestone of $1 billion in revenue, with 60% of its earnings generated from international operations. That year, the company sold around 3,100 buses to markets abroad. While Marcopolo was gaining recognition abroad by other major companies, it was also transforming the way public transportation was done in Brazil. During the 1970s and 1980s, it introduced generations of buses, each one featuring innovation, comfort, improved aerodynamics, and enhanced safety. When Marcopolo opened itself to the market in 1978, it changed the trajectory and future of the company for good. The access to investor capital and a more professional governance let the company double down on scale in Caxias do Sul and later expand capacity in São Mateus, so it could answer big city orders as Brazil's bus corridors, terminals, and BRT projects multiplied through the 1990s and 2000s. Competition in the bus industry has always been fierce. In Brazil alone, Marcopolo faces rivals like Kao and Mascherlo, while internationally it competes with giants such as Volvo, Daimler, and Yutong. Even so, Marcopolo has consistently held around half of Brazil's bus body market, typically between 47% and 55%, depending on the quarter. In 2019 alone, it sold 10,532 buses in Brazil and 2,881 for export. That endurance reflects not only its efficiency and brand trust, but also a smart balance between demand and supply, meeting cities, fleet renewals, and post-pandemic rebounds with a production network and product mix now shifting toward electrification as public programs drive new e-bus purchases. At its core, Marcopolo's value proposition has always been simple: durable, adaptable buses built to fit the roads, climate, and passengers of each market. In short, going public gave the company the financing muscle and discipline to scale with Brazil's cities and to stay on top as the market modernized. Today, Marcopolo generates around $1.75 billion in revenue and employs more than 20,000 people worldwide. Yet the company stands at a crossroads. The rise of electrification and a wave of fierce new rivals, especially Chinese EV makers, are reshaping the global bus market. Marcopolo's response has been the Ativi electric line, developed with BYD chassis, and the new G8 coaches designed for international standards. Still, the company faces deeper challenges: a strong reliance on Brazil's economy, a slower transition to electric technology compared to competitors like BYD or Yudong, and new substitutes redefining urban mobility, ride-sharing apps, metro expansion, and emerging electric bus startups. These forces test whether Marcopolo's decades of expertise can evolve fast enough to turn its weaknesses into innovation and protect its leadership in a rapidly changing industry. Despite those pressures, the company remains financially solid, closing 2024 with $1.3 billion in net income and ranked top 18 in largest specialty vehicles makers by market cap as of 2025. An industry worth over $250 billion. So what exactly fueled Marcopolo's rise? 4 pillars stand out. First, innovation. In 1953, they replaced wood with steel, and decades later they led the shift toward hybrid and BRT systems. That pattern, adapting early to change, became their habit. Second, a global vision. Instead of waiting to be big, Marcopolo expanded early, setting up factories from Portugal to India. That move built resilience. When Brazil slowed down, the world kept them rolling. Third, empowering people. The Marcopolo production system gave employees real voice through quality circles and team-based work, a textbook example of an internal innovation ecosystem. And fourth, sustainability. Marcopolo promotes public transport as a cleaner, more inclusive way to connect cities, and today that purpose drives its push into electric mobility. Together, these pillars show that success isn't about a single invention, but a culture of constant improvement. If you liked learning about Marcopolo, check out Embrar to see how another Brazilian company is making a difference.